The human condition is defined by a deep, relentless war, not against enemies abroad, but against the weakness and illusion within. There are ruthless truths, forged in the ancient discipline of Stoicism, and if you possess the courage to face them, you become dangerous in a way that manipulators, failures, and regret can no longer touch you. We were raised on a pretty comforting story. The world is fair. People are fundamentally kind. Hard work always pays off. It's a sweet lie, but life whispers otherwise, loudly, insistently. The game is rigged. Not everyone plays clean, and effort without brutal clarity bleeds you dry. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, reminds us, "You have power over your mind, over your assent, not outside events. Own the mind, win the day." When you master your own internal landscape, you instantly rise above 90% of the crowd, who are slaves to external chaos. Today, 8 ruthless lessons to make you dangerously smart, seeing through appearances, impossible to manipulate, decisive under crushing pressure. And lesson 6 will serve as the cold, hard lens through which you must judge every single relationship in your life. What is this dangerous intelligence? Ordinary intelligence helps you solve existing problems. Dangerous intelligence helps you see them before they crash into you. It is not the art of manipulating others, but the ruthless discipline of cutting through your own illusions, your own hopes, and your own fears. The Stoics called it training the mind to see clearly, to think rightly, to act justly, even in the middle of chaos. Are you ready to claim that clarity? If you are ready to claim that clarity and begin this journey toward unbreakable intelligence, hit that like button now. Your commitment starts here. Let's begin the forge. Lesson 1. Emotion drives. Logic is the alibi. Most decisions are not born in logic. They are triggered by emotion, then dressed up with logic afterward. The reasoning is merely the press release. This is the hardest pill to swallow. The illusion of rational thought. The vast majority of human decisions are not born in a spreadsheet or a syllogism. They are triggered by a sudden spike of emotion, a rush of anger, a sting of inadequacy, or the hunger for recognition. The logical explanation that follows is nothing more than the alibi written after the crime is committed. I worked with a man who invested a significant portion of his savings into a high-risk venture. His explanation was meticulous: market analysis, growth potential, exit strategies. It sounded perfectly rational, but the brutal truth surfaced later. He had recently been publicly dismissed from a long-held corporate position. What he truly wanted wasn't a profit margin. It was a way to feel important and vindicated again. The financial models were camouflage. The decision was born of wounded pride. You see this toxic cycle everywhere. Online debates rarely pivot on facts. They turn on ego, on the identity people are clinging to, on the visceral need to win and be right. In the office, colleagues may violently resist a new process, not because it's inefficient, but because deep down they are asking, will this render me irrelevant? The Stoics warned us, people are rarely fighting about the thing on the surface. They are fighting for their pride, their place, their need to feel secure. So here is the drill for the dangerously smart mind. When you feel the rush, anger, excitement, or profound certainty rising inside, you stop. You execute the discipline of assent. Ask, what am I really feeling right now? Anger? Fear? The hunger to be recognized? And then ask the harder question, what rash decision born of this feeling will I regret tomorrow? And when others flare up, do not attack their logic. Speak to the emotion first. Acknowledge the fear, the frustration, the wounded pride before inviting them back into reason. Say, I hear the weight of your concern, or I see why this feels threatening. That is dangerous intelligence. The ability to read the primal emotion underneath yours and theirs. It is the power to prevent the fire before it burns down the room. Lesson 2. Self-interest is the universal prime mover. Everyone, without exception, acts in their own perceived interest. This is not cynicism, it is the ultimate liberating reality. Once you see this truth clearly, your disappointment in people evaporates. Why? Because you stop demanding that they defy gravity. We like to believe in pure, selfless altruism. We want to think our neighbor bakes cookies simply because she loves giving, or that a colleague volunteers for extra work out of a sheer dedication to the team's abstract success. But beneath the surface, there is always a layer of self-interest, sometimes noble, like self-respect or the pursuit of duty, sometimes selfish, but always there. It is the universal prime mover. I remember a mentor who seemed endlessly generous. He organized community events, gave massive amounts of his time, and always showed up with tailored advice and a smile. People praised his selflessness, but later I understood he was using every interaction as a disciplined practice to secure his own future. Networking, building a reputation of flawless reliability, and testing his leadership skills for a much larger project. The kindness was real, but so was the ambition. And here is the radical shift. Once I understood his deeper motive, I stopped feeling naive or tricked. I respected him more because he was smart enough to align his own goals, his self-interest, with service to others. That is the Stoic lesson of rational self-regard. Self-interest is not evil, it is simply human nature. Marcus Aurelius himself admitted that even his service to Rome was also service to his own sense of duty and honor, which provided him with inner peace. Seneca warned us, expecting people to consistently act against their own deepest interests is like fighting gravity. It is pointless and exhausting. So what do? We stop asking, why are they so selfish? Instead, we ask, what do they really want here? What is their current prime motive? And then we align. We find the overlap. We build agreements where both sides benefit, an overlap of interest, instead of demanding sacrifices that can never last. This is dangerous intelligence, seeing the hidden currents of motivation, understanding that every request, every smile, every offer carries a purpose. When you see it clearly, you can work with reality, not against the exhausting illusion of pure selflessness. Lesson 3. The lie of self-deception. Most people cannot handle the truth about themselves. They choose comfortable slavery over painful freedom. This lesson cuts deep into the soul, because the harshest mirror is not the one we hold up to others. It is the one we hold up to ourselves. Most people avoid that mirror with manic intensity. They build complex stories, excuses, and elaborate intellectual defenses, anything to protect the fragile, comfortable image they have constructed. And that is why they stay trapped in the same mistakes, the same toxic cycles, year after year. I had a colleague who constantly complained about being overlooked for promotions. Every time he blamed external forces, office politics, unfair managers, or bad luck. But when I gently pointed out his pattern of lateness, his missed deadlines, and his constant clashes with the core team, he snapped back, "You don't understand the toxic situation here." His mind wasn't seeking truth. It was seeking protection for his ego. The Stoics called this self-deception a profound kind of slavery, because if you cannot clearly see your own part in the problem, if you cannot admit where your agency created the negative outcome, you will never hold the power to change it. You are perpetually reliant on the world outside you changing first. Marcus Aurelius wrote endlessly about this, questioning his motives, confronting his flaws, and disciplining his ego. Why? Because truth, however painful, is the only ground solid enough to build an unassailable life upon. So here's the daily test for dangerous intelligence. Ask yourself, what truth am I actively avoiding? What piece of uncomfortable feedback did I dismiss too quickly? Where am I deceiving myself because the reality is simply too uncomfortable to bear? These are brutal questions, but they are the keys to your cage. Most people surround themselves with yes men, with echoes of their own comforting illusions. But the dangerous mind seeks the opposite. It seeks the piercing voice that says, "You're wrong here. Fix it." That is true strength. Because when you can face your own flaws without flinching, you become untouchable. While others are trapped in their comforting lies, you are already evolving into the next, superior version of yourself. If you are ready to stop lying to yourself and commit to this path of brutal self-honesty, comment below right now with the word mirror. This is your public vow to seek the uncomfortable truth. Lesson 4. Envy is the tax on excellence. Your success will make some people hate you. Expect resistance as the inevitable tax on excellence. Strange, isn't it? You work hard. You sacrifice. You rise higher. You finally win. And instead of genuine applause, you feel the sharp, bitter sting of resentment. Why? Because your success is a mirror. It reflects back to others what they could be, but perhaps chose not to become. And not everyone can face that reflection without flaring up. I saw this with a college friend who built a thriving, ethical business from nothing. When he struggled, everyone was kind, supportive, and encouraging. But the moment his company was featured in a national magazine, the tone changed overnight. Jokes about how money must have gone to his head. Rumors about how he just got lucky. People who once celebrated his effort began sharpening knives behind his back. Here's the brutal truth. He hadn't changed. What changed was how his success ruthlessly exposed the excuses of others. Instead of being genuinely inspired, they felt threatened, and that threat manifested as envy, often disguised as criticism or concern. Marcus Aurelius knew this well. Even as the most powerful man in the world, he was surrounded by gossip, betrayal, and envy from those closest to him. His reminder was simple. Very little is needed for a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. In other words, their poison is their burden, not yours. So when envy comes, do not shrink to make others comfortable. Do not dim your light just because it hurts their eyes. Stand firm. Keep building. Let your work speak louder than their bitterness. This is dangerous intelligence, expecting resistance as the price of growth, knowing that success will test not just your skills, but the loyalty and character of your inner circle. And when the whispers come, you'll recognize them for what they are, not a reflection of you, but a painful revelation of them. Lesson 5. Every interaction is an influence attempt. Everyone is selling you something, an idea, an action, or a feeling. Once you internalize this, you gain the power of conscious choice. Once you truly see this, you will never view people or situations the same way again. Every single human interaction is, at its core, an influence attempt. Every smile, every story, every gesture, every well-timed question, it is a bid to get you to do, think, or feel something. Sometimes it is obvious, sometimes subtle, but the motive is always there. I once met an old acquaintance for coffee. At first it felt warm, nostalgic. She asked about my work, my family, remembered intricate details from years ago. I thought, this is genuine friendship. Then, halfway through the reveal, she had joined a new business opportunity, and suddenly all the friendliness was revealed as the sales pitch. The friendship was just the packaging. The real product was my time, my network, or my wallet. And no, she wasn't evil. She honestly believed she was helping. But that's the point. Influence wears many masks, sometimes kindness, sometimes urgency, sometimes guilt, and often genuine belief. Marcus Aurelius knew this well. Surrounded by generals, advisors, and politicians, each one pushing their own agenda, he trained himself to see through the pitch. His training was to hear not just the words, but the motive beneath the words. That is your impenetrable shield. Don't assume everyone is malicious. Assume everyone has an interest. And once you ask, with detached curiosity, What do they really want here? You stop being a passive buyer in the marketplace of influence. You become a conscious chooser. Your co-worker's compliment may be genuine, but it may also be leverage for support at the next meeting. Your neighbor's kind gesture may be genuine, but it may also be an investment in a future favor. It is not paranoia, it is radical clarity. This is dangerous intelligence, refusing to be lulled by surface appearances, choosing with awareness, deciding on your terms, not theirs. When you see the hidden sales pitch behind every interaction, you stop being sold and start living by choice. Lesson 6. Trust patterns, not promises. When people show you who they are through consistent patterns, believe them the first time. This lesson will save you years of wasted trust and inevitable heartache. This is the lesson that must change how you judge every relationship in your life. People are revealing their true nature all the time, in the small details, in how they treat waiters, in whether they keep small, meaningless promises, in the jokes they tell when they think no one important is listening. The signs are always there. What's missing is our willingness to see them, our willingness to set aside hope and face the evidence. I once worked with a promising business partner who loved to slightly exaggerate his role in meetings. At first, I brushed it off, just a little ego. Then came the slightly padded expense reports, small numbers, easy to excuse. I made excuses. He's just excited. Everyone fudges receipts. But years later, when I discovered he'd been systematically negotiating behind my back to cut me out of the company, the truth was illuminated. The truth had been on display the whole time. I just didn't want to believe it, because it would have forced a painful, difficult decision. Maya Angelou said it best. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. The Stoics lived by this principle of action over assertion. Marcus Aurelius judged not by eloquent speeches or isolated, performative acts, but by consistent, verifiable patterns of behavior. Seneca warned us, hoping someone will fundamentally change their core. Nature is a losing bet. You are fighting human essence itself. So here is the rule for the dangerously smart mind. Trust patterns, not promises. Trust actions, not words. Trust consistency, not explanations. If someone gossips about others relentlessly, they will eventually gossip about you. If they break small commitments, they have the operating system for breaking big ones. If they show disrespect when it costs them nothing, they will show betrayal when the stakes are high. This is dangerous intelligence, refusing to rewrite the story in your head to protect your immediate feelings. Taking people at the evidence of their behavior, not the potential of who they might one day become. When the evidence is clear, you adjust your boundaries, not their excuses. See the pattern, believe it, move accordingly. Lesson 7. Comfort is the enemy of growth. Comfort is not security. It is a soft prison. Voluntary difficulty is the only pathway to strength and resilience. Comfort feels safe. It feels warm. It whispers, stay here. You've made it. You deserve ease. But in truth, comfort is a cage. A soft prison that robs you of strength, resilience, and edge long before you realize you are trapped. I knew a brilliant software engineer. Great pay, flexible hours, work that came easy. For 3 years he was living the dream of ease. But slowly, his intellectual edge dulled. New technologies overwhelmed him. Conversations that once excited him now felt heavy and tedious. He hadn't failed. He had decayed, not from hardship, but from ease. Then came the unexpected layoff, and suddenly the security he trusted was gone. The comfort that once felt like a blessing revealed itself as a catastrophic trap. The Stoics understood this existential threat. Marcus Aurelius could have drowned in palace luxury, yet he chose campaigns, challenges, the intense grind of leadership, and cold baths. Seneca famously practiced voluntary discomfort, sleeping on the floor, eating simple meals, because he knew that if you only accept ease, your soul will collapse when genuine hardship inevitably arrives. So, how do we fight back? We choose difficulty on purpose. We seek out the necessary friction. Speak up when silence is safer. Learn the skill that intimidates you. Train the body when the couch is calling your name. Every time you push into discomfort, you are sharpening your blade. Here is the paradox. Comfort kills more dreams than failure ever will, because failure at least provides data and teaches. Comfort teaches nothing except how to stay the same. Dangerous intelligence means spotting this insidious trap early. It means asking, where am I choosing safety over growth? What essential, difficult task am I avoiding because it feels hard? And then stepping straight toward it. While most people are lulled to sleep by comfort, you will be awake, alive, and rising. Lesson 8, Memento Mori. Triviality is the real crime. You are going to die, and most of your worries are trivial noise. Use Memento Mori to filter your focus. This is the final lesson, the most ruthless and, paradoxically, the most liberating. Death is not a possibility, it is the only certainty. And when you embed this truth into your daily operating system, most of the noise and triviality that currently drains your energy vanishes into thin air. I watched this truth unfold in a man I admired greatly. Before his diagnosis, he obsessed over office politics, neighborhood gossip, whether his lawn looked perfect compared to the neighbors. He fought battles that meant absolutely nothing to his soul. But once a terminal diagnosis forced him to face the clock, everything shifted instantly. He stopped caring about external approval. He ended hollow relationships. He gave his time only to what truly brought joy, love, and meaning. Ironically, he became freer, happier, and more alive, even as his days grew short. The Stoics called this memento mori, remember death, not to be morbid, but to achieve focus. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live." Seneca warned that wasting time is the one crime that cannot be repaid. So ask yourself this question, the ultimate filter. If I had 1 year left, would this current worry matter? Would I still waste hours arguing online? Would I still chase the hollow approval of strangers? Or would I finally speak the words I've been holding back? Finally build what I've been postponing? Finally live not tomorrow, but now? This is dangerous intelligence, cutting away the trivial, investing your life energy only in what will ultimately matter at the end. While others drown in meaningless anxiety, you walk clear-eyed, unburdened, and urgently alive. Because the truth is brutal, you will die, but within that truth lies your profound freedom. When nothing is guaranteed, everything truly important becomes urgent. And that urgency is the beginning of a life fully, powerfully lived. Conclusion: the vow of clarity. 8 ruthless lessons, each one a philosophical blade that cuts away the illusion, cuts away the fluff, and cuts away the weakness that has held you captive. If you have stayed with me this far, you already carry more clarity and more power than most. Now the question is, will you practice it? Will you choose truth over comfort, discipline over distraction, growth over the illusion of safety? If this journey speaks to the warrior in you, share it, like it, and subscribe so these essential, ruthless reminders find you when you need them most. And leave just 3 words in the comments. Your public vow to yourself. Write, "I choose clarity." Let that be your declaration that from today forward you will see through the fog and live awake.